Good morning, seventh grade. It is Tuesday the 17th. Somebody's knocking at my door already. Sorry about that. Chapter 5, Section 3, make sure you are copying these down. Your test is going to be 1 week from today. We will do a review on YouTube Live on Friday. I'm not sure what time yet. If you cannot tune in during the actual airing of that, that is perfectly fine. You can watch that on your own time. However, that'll have all the test questions and answers. So you are going to want to watch that at some point in time. Monday, we'll play the review game in class. You can ask me questions, email or Google Classroom, or however you feel is best necessary on Monday, and then the test will be Tuesday, a week from today. So the American Revolution is starting today. Not today, but on the notes today. You know what I mean. And so we are in the mid-1770s. Things kind of calm down. That's what the word lull means, a little pause in the move towards independence. That, we talked about the Boston Massacre and we talked about the Boston Tea Party. And we talked about all these taxes that England was putting on the colonists, and they thought it was unfair, and they thought it was mostly unfair because they were not being represented in Parliament, and they were the only ones that were paying those taxes. And so a lot of people say, that the idea that we went to war over a tax issue is overreacting, but that was sort of just a symptom of a bigger problem that was manifesting itself, that the English did not consider the American colonists to be people, and that they were using us basically as an ATM, and that they didn't think we had rights, and they thought we just existed to make them money. And the people in America wanted to be treated as equals with English citizens. When England said, hey, you got to follow English laws, they were like, okay, well, let's follow all English laws. Let's be treated just like the rest of the English people. And so they organized the Continental Congress. And so some of the most famous American founding fathers, John Adams, Samuel Adams, by the way, the rule on the test, their last names are fine unless there are more than one people with the same last name. In this case, if you put Adams on the test, you're going to get it wrong. You need to put John Adams or J. Adams or S. Adams or Sam Adams or Samuel Adams. You need to tell me who or what you're talking about, because there are two Adamses in this chapter, not to mention the fact that two Adamses become president later on, John Adams and his son, John Quincy, but we'll get to that later on. But these people are meeting, and they're trying to create a framework to organize the colonies under one umbrella government. And so instead of having 13 different colonies running their own laws and having their own governments, we would have one that would coordinate taxation and the effort for the entire what is going to be a country. It's still the 13 colonies at that time. You want everybody on the same team. If you're playing basketball and two of your guards are playing man and your two forwards playing zone and your center is just standing up staring at the lights and spinning around, you're not going to win many ball games. And so you got to have everybody on the same page. And so that's what the idea behind the First Continental Congress. Spoiler, there's going to be a Second Continental Congress, else we wouldn't call the First Continental Congress the First Continental Congress, but we'll get to that later. Also, they didn't call Rocky One. They just call it Rocky because they didn't know there was going to be Rocky 2, but that's another story. Patrick Henry famously said, basically we got to stick together. We can't consider ourselves. Here is the quote. If you're from Virginia, you can't be a Virginian or a New Yorker from New York, or if you're from New England. He probably said New England. New England's a gathering of 4 colonies in the Northeast, but he basically meant Massachusetts. But I don't think he probably want to say Massachusetts. I don't know. That's probably why I said New Englander. That's the point. But anyway, you can't be that anymore. You just got to consider yourself an American. I'm not a Virginian. I'm an American. We all got to be in the same team, or else this is going to go south quickly. The Congress did a few things. They wrote a statement of grievances against Britain. Here are the problems we have with you. Here's what you're doing that's unfair, and we're stating that clearly. All the acts and taxes passed in 1763, including the Proclamation of 1763 that you've passed that only apply to us, are unfair, and we do not think we should have to abide by them. We are not going to buy or sell any goods, whether that's stamped goods, sugar, tea, or anything else, from the English colonies, and we are not going to export anything to you. Throughout history, embargoes or boycotts, which are different things but basically mean the same thing, similarly, you're not going to trade with another country, have not worked. This one worked though, because we, as you can see now, looking at a map of planet Earth, or realizing you live in America, we've got more stuff than they do. We have a bigger land area. We've got more natural resources than England does. The state of Pennsylvania itself at that time was about the size of England. And so the idea that we're going to cut them off, even though they are, considered to be the, the boss out of the, they're the, they would be considered the parent to our child, in other words. But us cutting them off worked. They also drew up the Suffolk Resolves. It was basically like, hey, we're going to get guns. And if these redcoats keep pushing us around in the streets, literally in some cases, it's going to be shooty, shooty, stabby, stabby. Okay, they call themselves Minutemen. They're militias. Militias are like citizen soldiers, not regular army people that have jobs in the army. But like, if I went home in the afternoon and trained to like be in they sounded an alarm and I sprung up out of bed and grabbed my gun and I went to fight to protect you, that would be a militia. It also means you're in big trouble, because I would suck at that. But anyway, that's another story altogether. Militia are just regular people that have other jobs that train to fight in emergencies. We've had militia, I think, 3 chapters in a row on vocab, so I think you should probably know what that is. They meant literally Minutemen. They slept basically in most of their full-on clothes, and they had their gun beside them in bed, and they literally within 1 minute could be roused out of bed and ready to fight, which is why they called themselves that. The idea of like personal hygiene, bathing all the time and changing your clothes and underwear and stuff didn't really exist at the level today as it did back then. Of course, I was in quarantine for 6 months. I'm not sure it really existed here very well either. Hopefully, we all are keeping clean. But anyway, but the idea that they could spring out of bed and basically just throw on their shoes and be ready to go was pretty accurate. Okay, for me, I can't. I got to get up in the morning and shower. I got to put in my contacts or I would be blind, and everything else. So the British are sending more troops. They start marching. And then Paul Revere, famous Paul Revere got the poem written about him, and people always realize that. People always think of Paul Revere riding through the countryside yelling, "The British are coming, the British are coming." And the reality is not that. He did do that. He didn't yell, "The British are coming, the British are coming." He basically just went door to door like, "Hey, the regulars are out," is actually what we think he said, meaning the regular army is out. But he didn't. It wasn't just him riding through the countryside shouting. He was like going door to door to people's houses that he knew, like spreading the word like that. Also, there was another guy, William Dawes, who kind of got forgotten by history, and Paul Revere became super duper famous. And William Dawes was like, "Oh yeah, this guy did it also." When reality is, they did exactly the same thing. And so basically, he traveled ahead to warn the people of Lexington and Concord. Concord was where there was a big arsenal, a big storage building full of weapons and ammunition that the British had heard about. And so Revere correctly and Dawes correctly think that they're marching towards Concord. To do that, they've got to get through Lexington. At Lexington, there were like several hundred redcoats and about a couple hundred, few dozens, in other words, Minutemen. And they had a standoff, and the redcoats yelled at them like, "Hey, put down your weapons." Somebody fired a shot. Nobody knows who did it. A lot of people think it was just an accidental misfire, which guns did a lot back then. But once there was one shot fired, it was game on. And the there were a few dozen Minutemen, and 8 of them were killed. And the redcoats were like, "This is going to be so easy. This is all the troops they've got." But the reality is, the group of Minutemen set up at Lexington were basically just what you might consider a roadblock or a speed bump. They were set there to basically slow down the redcoats on their way to Concord. And then when they got to Concord, they found the arsenal. They found that A, it had already been cleaned out. And so they're like, well, okay. So they walked back, and they realized that B, on their way back, that the Minutemen and some of their Native American allies were hiding down in creeks beds, up in trees, waiting to ambush them. And so the guerrilla warfare, again with a U and an E, not a gorilla with an O, not like a big A, although that would be awesome. But guerrilla warfare, we were using hit and run attacks, surprise attacks, ambush attacks. And we really did a number on the British. We killed 73 of them. And they were like, "Oh, crap, we weren't ready for that." And this is what Ralph Waldo Emerson called the shot heard around the world, because this really did change the course of world history. The Battle of Bunker Hill was the first official battle. It was fought on a hill called Breed's Hill, which is why it's pretty dumb that we called it the Battle of Bunker Hill. We were set up on the two hills, and they watched the battle from Bunker Hill, so they named it that. You'll realize as we go through history in the next year and a half that historians are not always the best at naming things that make sense. But anyway, it was a strategic location overlooking Boston. We killed over 1,000 redcoats, although we did officially lose the battle because we ran out of gunpowder and had to retreat. But we won the battle. The British won the battle, but they suffered heavy losses. You could read a quote that basically like, hey, glad we won, but if we win many more like that, we're going to lose the war. You know, that's a famous saying, win the battle but lose the war. But this was the beginning of the American Revolution. This is the first official battle. That was on your questions yesterday. I haven't checked them yet. But if you didn't put that, you can go back and change it. Make sure you got complete sentences and stuff. So that's it for today. I tried to make this as quickly as I can. I tried to get under 10 minutes because I've got to go run copies and stuff this morning. But your attendance question today, any number over 1,000. That's all you do is type in a number over 1,000. Doesn't matter which. It's not a guessing game. It's not close. Guess. It's just make sure that you are watching this video and paying attention. That's all you got to do. In the purple Google form that I will post on Google Classroom with this video and with a link to the notes, because I realized I went through them too quickly for you to probably copy them down as I was yapping. Have a good day. Make sure you wear a mask if you're out and about. Keep your hands washed and stay safe. And I will see you on Thursday.